Unfortunately for everybody, referees are an incredibly important aspect of football. And with the level of consistency in which certain teams get incredibly bad calls, it begins to feel like a coin toss as to whether certain teams get to play or not.
He's on the shoulder pad. He's still on the shoulder pad. I'm trying to figure out when does he actually put hands to the face?
Boog, you're right.
In the NFL, it feels like every week there are a handful of controversial calls that unfairly impact team seasons. And while we all love to think that the referees have it out for our favorite teams in particular, I think that if we look at it objectively, there are definitely certain NFL teams that get screwed over by the referees the most. Let's take a look at the 10 NFL teams that have had the worst luck with referees and some of their most memorable follies. Number 10, Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals have found themselves on the wrong side of quite a few screw jobs in recent memory. Like this absurd helmet-to-helmet call that was made during their shocking loss to the lowly New York Jets in 2021. I mean, the tackler was basically knee-height and Tyler Johnson lowered his head and went crashing into him. The Bengals are no strangers to pivotal calls going against them though. Remember back in 2018 when the Steelers ran an egregious big play to steal a tie game with 10 seconds left? As if it weren't hard enough to be a Bengals fan already. Number 9, Kansas City Chiefs. While Chiefs fans haven't exactly had the same hard times that Bengals fans have had in general, they too have found themselves at war with the NFL's officiating. And the fans have been quite vocal about it, particularly after the debacle that was the 2021 Super Bowl matchup with Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Perhaps the most egregious example came on the negated Tyrann Mathieu interception, when they called a suspect holding penalty on Travarius Ward away from the play. It's hard to deny that it did feel like the calls in this one were a little bit lopsided, which is not what you want to see really ever, let alone on the biggest stage that professional football has to offer.
Hey Chris, considering that you said the Buccaneers had a great offensive line going into this, just what did they do maybe differently in the first matchup to give Brady more time?
Nothing. Brady just got it off fast and a lot of penalties.
Chiefs fans were especially miffed because the officiating crew was headed by Carl Cheffers, one of the most trigger-happy referees we have ever seen. Needless to say, Kansas City's fury only increased this year when Cheffers officiated a game against the Bills, a game that Al Michaels likened to Flag Day.
Here's the penalty. Oh, really?
That one is a stunner for me again.
This crew's calling everything tonight.
And once again, fans went straight to Twitter to voice their displeasure with Cheffers. Number 8, Pittsburgh Steelers. While some fan bases argue that the Steelers, one of the NFL's crown jewel franchises, may get preferential treatment at times, we've actually seen quite a few instances in which they've been hamstrung by shoddy officiating. Cough, cough, roughing the passer in that ugly tie against the Lions. Or how about the time that Gene Steratore admitted that there was a complete administrative breakdown by the officials that resulted in a stopped clock for Washington, which allowed them to kick an important field goal in a game that they would go on to lose.
Due to administrative issue, the K-ball was not near what we needed to bring in. Clock was stopped so we could spot the ball.
And lest we forget this controversial offsides call that I am still trying to make sense of.
Offside, defense, number 23.
This is a huge call. Are they offside?
Or the Jesse James no catch during that pivotal late season game versus the Patriots in 2017.
There's no doubt it's going to hold up.
After reviewing the play, the receiver in the end zone did not survive the ground. It's an incomplete pass.
Hard to argue that the Steelers haven't caught more than their fair share of shrapnel from the officials. Number 7, Cleveland Browns. Staying in the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns have gotten treated even worse than their divisional neighbors. We saw recently against the Chargers when Mike Williams nearly strangled Browns cornerback AJ Green with his own jersey, yet it was somehow determined to be a defensive pass interference?
It looked like they were both competing for it.
That was on Green.
It almost. It really was Williams.
And sadly, it's not an isolated incident. The Browns are consistently on the wrong side of the refs. Whether it's phantom PIs against the Pats, or the missed offsides and step out of bounds on the infamous kick 6 returned by the Ravens, man, is it ever tough sledding being a Browns fan. Number 6, Buffalo Bills. Up in Western New York, the Bills have been done dirty quite a few times themselves. Like against the Chiefs when Ed Oliver got tagged for roughing the passer after making what seemed like a harmless shoestring tackle. Or when people thought that the broadcast sputtered out because the refs made such a bad pass interference call on Bills DB Levi Wallace against the Bucs.
Hands right here.
Well, you know what, Tony? It's on.
Only to have the refs then completely ignore a blatant one by Tampa in that same game.
They allow some contact down there on these fade routes, but I think that was a penalty, Jim, don't you?
Of course, this is nothing new to the Bills, though.
Well, I just think you got to look at the two markets. I'd rather have the Buffalo newspapers upset than the LA newspapers.
Remember when the referees chose not to stop the clock when the Bills were trying to tie that game in Foxborough?
Let's go back to this final play here. Watkins is not touched down by contact, so I would assume the clock is stopped.
Number 5, Dallas Cowboys. And Cowboys fans have felt persecuted ever since the Dez no catch. And as much as it pains me to say it, they actually have a point.
I'm trying to reach over the goal line. Why is that not a catch? I'm trying to reach over the goal line.
It is far from the only time the referees have turned their backs on Dallas. In fact, we see it regularly. How about this neutral zone infraction?
Touchdown was taken away.
False start, got to be on Washington.
Neutral zone infraction. Defense, number 90.
Or when Dak got almost his entire body in the end zone on a QB sneak only to be ruled down short.
Almost tells you it has to be a cross looking at that right there.
That looks like a touchdown.
Does, I mean.
The hits just keep on coming in Big D. Number 4, Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders franchise has long been at odds with the NFL, and so it is not a shock that their fans often take umbrage with the officials. When you see plays like this, well, it gives some credibility to the folks wearing their tinfoil hats. This probably subjected longtime Raiders fans to flashbacks of the infamous index card game, the immaculate reception, and of course, the tuck rule game.
After reviewing the play, the quarterback's arm was going forward. It is an incomplete pass.
Number 3, New England Patriots. Speaking of the tuck rule, how about the New England Patriots? They're not exactly anyone's favorite team to feel bad for, but that being said, there is no denying that they have found themselves on the wrong side of some rather unfair rulings over the years as well. Like this no call on this would-be third down conversion. It wasn't just this game against KC in which they would have gotten screwed either. How about this ridiculous inadvertent whistle that cost them what looked to be a possible touchdown?
The ruling on the field is that when the receiver caught the football, there was an inadvertent whistle.
Number 2, New Orleans Saints. It's no secret that the Saints organization and the NFL don't exactly see eye to eye. The duo's beef dates back to the infamous Bountygate scandal.
Every single one of you, before you get off the pile, affect the head. Early, affect the head. Continue, touch and hit the head. They're going to come in. They're going to be shocked with our contact. Kill the head, the body will die.
So, it's no shocker that the Saints have found themselves on the wrong side of the NFL's officials a time or two since then. The obvious place to start here is with the infamous PI no call from the NFC Championship game against the Rams back in 2019.
Breeze. Pass is incomplete, no flag. Crowd's going crazy.
The entire internet jumped down the officials' throats after that call. So much so that there were subsequently mass calls for the NFL to overhaul its replay system. During a wildcard round matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, when Kyle Rudolph got away with a blatant offensive pass interference penalty while hauling in a game-winning touchdown catch in overtime. And it isn't just these pass interference issues that have plagued the Saints either. There was the Cam Jordan 87-yard fumble recovery that got blown dead, costing the Saints a big-time stop and 6 points.
By saying incomplete pass, they blew it dead.
Killer mistake that hurts the Saints so badly. You have to lean the fumble.
And more recently in 2020, we saw a big-time red zone interception get called back for a beyond ticky-tacky roughing the passer penalty. Number 1, Detroit Lions. Yeah, no shocker here. It is a well-known fact at this point that if any NFL team has a true honest gripe with the Zebras, it is none other than the Detroit Lions. Dating all the way back to the infamous Calvin Johnson no catch of 2010. There was the undeniably painful non-pass interference call in the 2015 postseason against the Dallas Cowboys.
Boy, that was late. Have you ever seen that call picked up that late? Not at all.
Or how about the bizarre batting the ball out of the end zone ruling against the Seahawks on Monday Night Football in 2015?
It did look like a bat, so the enforcement would be, basically we'd go back to the spot of the fumble and Detroit would keep the football.
Or the challenge flag debacle of 2012 against the Houston Texans.
The play is not reviewable.
So had he never thrown the flag, the touchdown would have been automatically reviewed.
Yes.
To be completely honest, we could have done this entire video on the Lions. The list of times that they were screwed over by the referees just goes on and on. But which NFL team do you think gets screwed over by the referees the most? Did we miss anyone? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.